Engineering from the University of Sydney and have been a freelance consultant since 1988, director of my company SN2 Proprietary Limited since 2004. I live in Castle Crag, having returned here after living in many other places. First came here in 1953 with the parents, and I'm living here now. Okay. Oh. Over the years, I've written about 200 consulting reports in all manner of areas, and I won't go into them. About 10 years ago, I wrote a report for the Environmental Defender's Office on the Barangaroo development site, where there was a significant amount of buried coal tar from the works that were there. My report suggested that excavation of the site would result in significant air and water pollution from coal tar residues. Sometime later, when construction was underway, there was an underground fire that emitted greasy yellow smoke at the site. Was this arson or a happy coincidence? I have seen many such incidents like that as an expert witness, so of course my suspicions were aroused. Based on this report, I was asked by Northbridge resident Diane Studs to submit a report on the proposed dive site and the toxic waste that might be uncovered. I recall, and this has been said already, I recall seeing smoke and smelling the stench of open air burning just over there when I was a kid. Following Diane's request, I examined the history of the site and I came to certain conclusions that I submitted to the parliamentary inquiry. So, what sort of toxic waste would be found, likely to be found under the verdant camouflage of the playing fields and recreation grounds, and then importantly, downstream to the east, down into Little Harbour. Any disturbance here will literally unearth and liberate coal toxins. Just over Willoughby Road over here was the factory we've heard about from John, and the key agents in that polluting incident were chromium. I'll talk about the other one later, but chromium 6 that we might have seen in the film Erin Brockovitch. It's a carcinogen. It was used in the plating process, chromium plating, using chromic acid, and closer. So we might remember that. The all-purpose flat rock gully tip would have been used as the dump for spent chromium 6 and other plant wastes. And indeed, local historian Bob McKillop told us that the site was chosen specifically for that reason. Another persistent chemical was used in the plating process, a surfactant made with polyfluorinated sulfonic acid, also known as the family of PFAS chemicals, the forever chemical, nasty stuff. It gets into the liver and stays there because nature has no way of breaking down organofluorides. Very nasty stuff indeed. But of course, if you go to the government website, federal government here says that anyone concerned about PFAS should seek advice from a mental health professional. Not making it up. Oh yes, you must be mad. So let us not forget the old persistent toxin dioxin. This is the name given to 75 separate species of all different stripes which come under the heading of dioxin. It's notable not so much as a carcinogen, which it certainly is, but a mutagen. Birth defects are its legacy, and not for one generation, but serially. And I witnessed this sort of thing in Vietnam when I went there just recently. PVC pipe and various other organochlorine materials are great generators of dioxin if they're burned at low temperatures, and that's nearly always the case. The dive site is also likely to have significant levels of toxicity by so-called heavy metals. These include light metals as well, but I won't go into that. Beryllium, for example. It's not widely known that mixed toxins exhibit synergistic effects. In plain terms, this is where the combined toxicity of two or more contaminants is significantly greater than that of the each considered separately. Synergy. A familiar example in everyday life is the risk factors of heart disease, where overall risk accumulates with every additional factor. So that's synergy again. Dear people, concerned citizens, a goth moment came over me just then. The best strategy for a former dump like this is to leave it alone. What can be leached out over the decades most likely has been leached out. Digging it up again will release a a raft of toxic materials into the surroundings contained in dust, water and air. The best strategy is to leave it be.